Jane
so
or
she's
something.
making the plan.
So she's making the plan. Why don't you? And then I said, what energy is that coming from? Why don't you? Who's running the show here? Did you even give him an option to say no? So you said, why don't you? She's like, whoops. Welcome back. This is part 2 of the video series on how to save your marriage, the 6 important steps you must undertake. If you did not watch video number 1 of this series, please watch that first, and the link to that video is in the description box.
Yeah, it's important that you watch the first video because the steps that we're about to talk about all build on the steps that we review in that first video. So it's important to sort of have that as the foundation, so this will make a lot more sense.
Yes. Step 4 is speaking from an open heart. What do we mean?
Yeah, so speaking from an open heart really is about building intimacy. It's about the vulnerability that engenders intimacy, a sense of intimacy between the couple. So when I'm bearing my soul and somebody is hearing me with a loving and open heart, then I feel that much more connected. I feel acceptance. There's all kinds of nice emotions that flow when you have that kind of situation.
And speaking from an open heart is much easier when you have done the internal work on yourself, which is what we discussed in step number 3. So this is getting to know all of your behaviors, thoughts, and feelings that can be extreme, that get in the way of a nice, intimate, emotional connection with your partner.
Right. And it's so common for, long-term marriages to fall into certain patterns where you basically gravitate to your comfort zone and it becomes habit. But you may not be communicating at a level of intimacy and depth that really is what you need to maintain and build that kind of intimate connection. And what we're talking about in this step is really trying to regain that. So as Emily was saying, we start with doing the work on yourself. And we use the internal family systems, or IFS framework, with our clients to really explore, discover, and heal parts that are wounded way back in our childhood. And that experience, we bring that forward now into a couples coaching scenario, and it has all kinds of great benefits.
Yeah, because when one person in the dyad witnesses the other person's healing or understanding of, let's say, the part that gets angry too often, and let's say it's me witnessing Jim's angry part, and as he talks to his therapist about where it came from and what is its strategy, what happens for the person who's being the witness is like, oh, you soften. You're like, oh, that's where it came from.
Right.
And it's because of a little boy or a little girl underneath that anger that is still stuck in a past memory of something that happened to them. And an angry part is really protecting this little girl or little boy underneath. It's like, oh, it got really angry at 5 years old because mom did this or dad did that. So when you can witness what happened to your partner during his childhood in the moments of healing, in a healing session, this is where, wow, you get to share with an open heart with your partner about, wow, that was so beautiful. Now I can stop judging that angry part and I can support it and help you to dial it down. Right. When it shows up.
What a difference it makes. So we were driving in traffic one time on a very long drive. It was an 8-hour drive that turned into an 11-hour drive as we were driving north on 95 into Virginia. And we were in stop and go traffic, and I was driving following GPS's advice on what the fastest route is to get to where we were going to go. And well, lo and behold, GPS suddenly updated and said that there was a faster route that was faster by like 30 minutes or an hour or something if I just take the next exit. Well, the next exit had just gone by.
Because we were talking and GPS was on silent, we missed it.
Yeah,
and
so I had a little bit of an anger flare-up at GPS, not at Emily at all, of course, but at GPS. And she witnessed that, but she had witnessed my anger in the past, and she understood that this was a childhood wound that was surfacing again, and my behavior is the past active right now in the present moment. So in my childhood, I was raised with the attitude that I should be completely self-sufficient, right? This is, it's this rugged individualism idea that I don't need help. I don't need to ask for help.
I'm a man.
I shouldn't need to ask for
Real
help.
men
Right,
don't
right.
ask for help.
Yeah, right. So these are all really bad things to be learning, but it really flared up in that moment. Because we had been through sort of an angry outburst of mine in the past, Emily already understood the context of this in terms of my parts and what wound was actually being expressed at that moment.
Yeah, so that's really about understanding your partner so you could speak from an open heart. Because in that moment, I actually did freeze. And then later on, I said, can we talk this through? Because he noticed that I just completely shut down. Because that's my number one thing that I don't like.
Right. Of course, I feel horrible.
And so, the
Which
good thing...
immediately calms me down.
Right. Well, the good thing is we are able to talk through this. So step number 4 to saving your marriage is speaking from an open heart. So that leads to step number 5 is developing the new communication
Right.
skills so that you can save your marriage.
Yeah, these are new muscles. Think about it. They really take exercise in order to develop. They're new ways of communicating with your partner, new vocabulary, new sensitivities, new perceptions. And that really does take some practice in order to be able to exercise these new methods, especially in kind of the stressful moments like the one we were just talking about.
So to give you an example, new communication skills, I mean, one of the things that I have been able to bring into this relationship is the fact that oftentimes I do ask, are you open to hearing a different perspective?
Right. She asked me that a lot.
It's asking permission from your partner if it's okay to go down a certain discussion path. Right now we're trying to figure out house plans for building a house. And we both have very strong opinions about architecture and houses because both of us have built houses in our previous relationship. So we have certain tastes. So in order not to get into a fight with this stuff, I'm constantly asking, are you open to feedback? Are you open to hearing my perspective?
And that's totally disarming, of course. Of course I'm open to hearing her perspective, and we end up having a constructive conversation about sort of the merits of each of our points of view and finding some compromise that way. Instead of sort of retreating into our corners and putting up our armor and trying to, battle it out from I'm right, you're wrong point of view. So this brings up the blame game. These dynamics can be very damaging to intimacy in a relationship. So what we really encourage people to do is to do what we call take the U-turn. So if you find yourself in a situation, turn the focus from, your partner is this, your partner is that, to what part do I have in this? How am I reacting to this? Because you can control your own reaction, you can control your own behavior. And that fundamental difference allows you to communicate with your partner from an I standpoint instead of from a you standpoint.
So building new communication muscles can look something like this. Maybe in the past you used to say, honey, we need to talk.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
That sounds like a problem.
Yeah. And so automatically defenses go up. So what this means is that you develop the muscle to say, are you open to discussing something with me later? Not that we need to talk, because we need to talk makes you feel like what?
Defensive, of course.
That you failed already.
Immediately there's a problem. Yeah, I've done something wrong and I'm about to get scolded for it or something.
Yeah.
And that just feels terrible.
So change your language, drop into your heart. And, I'm really scared to bring this up, but I want to bring it up because I love you. Would you be open to talking about XYZ later?
Of course, honey. We can talk about it now.
Okay. Or it can be like, you know what? I miss you. I want to feel closer to you. I miss the connection we used to have.
Yeah, I miss it too.
And I know that I haven't been the best in terms of speaking from an open heart. I've been pointing the finger, letting you know you should, or why don't you? And I realized that I played a big part in causing the rift in our relationship. and I'm open to understanding my part and how I could communicate better so that we can get reconnected again at the level we used to be at 10 years ago.
Yeah, I would really like that. I miss that too.
Yeah.
And I care deeply for you.
Yeah. And I want to be more physically intimate, but because we've had these resentments swept under the rug, it's really held me back from wanting to be intimate. And I want to get back into that connection. Is this something you're interested in?
Oh, very much so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I
if
miss
you,
that intimate, physical, intimate connection too.
yeah, yeah. So because we need help in this, would you be open to seeing a counselor or therapist or coach to get us to where we need to go?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's that important to me. I'll do whatever it takes.
Okay, well, good. I'm glad. So that is an example of just getting vulnerable.
Yeah, and how could you not respond with sort of warmth and kindness to your partner who's telling you something so deep and important to her as wanting to get more intimate again, to recover or to regain the intimacy that we once had.
So that's an example of step number 5 of building the new communication muscles. And it's best if you do work with a neutral third party to help you with the language where you could practice with each other in front of the healer and the coach. This is what we do for our clients.
Exactly.
We have them practice right in front of us so they can make the mistakes of speaking in a new way, and then we
in a safe environment
guide them
that we
to
create.
correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how they build the
And
muscle.
sometimes it starts to feel a little artificial at the beginning because we're literally feeding them the words to say. But when they say those words and they see, sincerely, they see the response that their partner has, it really reinforces the whole idea. And it allows that learning to take place much more quickly.
Yep, they do it a few times so that, oh, okay, it's not that bad. And then we invite them to keep practicing until their next session.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's step 5, building that communication muscle. And now we're on to the 6th and final step. And the 6th and final step is
Very important. And
very important. It's about creating the opportunity for attraction in the relationship. And the model that we use here is called masculine-feminine polarity.
it's not a new concept. It's been written about by other experts in the past. And we're going to translate this into something that is extremely necessary to restore and reignite passion and intimacy in a marriage, especially in a sexist marriage.
Right.
Many of the clients we work with are strong women who have accomplished a lot and who have ruled the world by day, and then they bring that same energy
Right.
into their romantic relationships,
So let's
and it emasculates their
Right.
husbands.
So let's talk about that in terms of polarity. So first, let's back up and talk about what we mean when we say masculine and feminine polarities. Each of us has both masculine energy and feminine energy. That is a part of who we are. So women have masculine energy and men have feminine energy. So that's an important point, is that you can be in your own masculine energy or your feminine energy at any point in time. So what do we mean by masculine energy?
Masculine energy is the part of us that likes to lead and direct and make decisions. It is the leader.
It's the planning, it's the execution, it's all of that. It's making the reservations at the restaurant, it's going shopping and filling the shopping list, it's the things that really are necessary in our lives for us to survive, right? But it's the structure and the execution of a plan.
Yes, it's the clarity. So it's what you do when you're at work. If your boss tells you to do something, he is in masculine energy, and then you, if you're a woman, you get into your masculine energy to execute what he just told you to do. So that's the masculine side of you.
Right, so if you're a woman who's used to ruling the world by day, and you come home at night and come into the home, you're suddenly in a very different environment. But the default behavior for many of these women is to just continue in the same mode with their masculine energy.
Directing everything in the house, telling the husbands
show,
what to
right?
do, running the show.
Because they're used to running the show.
Yeah, yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that, but after a while, the man's going to feel like he is living with his mother.
Right. So what that does to a guy, as Emily said this earlier, is it's very emasculating. And what that means is that it sort of steals the opportunity for me to be the leader. I want to be the leader. I'm the guy, and I want to wear the pants in the relationship. But if I don't have the opportunity, what I'm left with is, okay, this is what makes her happy, and I want to make her happy. So I'll just retreat to my little corner
And let her run the show.
And let her run the show, and that seems to be what makes her happy, right? And I'll pursue my own, hobbies and go into my cave, and I'll retreat into myself. Rather than being able to really be the leader that I know I can be.
So that's the masculine energy in all of us. What's the feminine energy in all of us?
So the feminine energy is all about emotion and expression and being in the moment and reacting to the environment around you with feelings and emotions and what we call the sort of feminine flow, going with the flow of
Going
what's
with the
happening.
flow.
Yeah.
And in order for attraction to happen, there has to be a leader and a follower.
Right.
Most men naturally want to be the leader in a relationship. They're supposed to set the direction for the relationship. That's why in dating, it doesn't work when a woman is chasing the guy.
Right. Good point. Yeah. So guys want to lead, and this isn't necessarily the case in every relationship. There will be some relationships where both members of the couple are comfortable with the woman in the masculine energy, in which case the man needs to fall into the feminine role in order for that polarity to exist. So the very fundamental concept here is that polarity creates attraction, that opposites attract. And that's not a new idea, but it really is something that's embedded in our genetics. Again, we are attracted to that opposite energy.
Because if the woman is leading and trying to plan dates or whatever, plan things, and the man is trying to do that, then you're butting heads.
Right. Yeah, and what I was describing earlier is that when a man is butting heads with his powerful woman, as she walks in the door from ruling the world, he's going to want to make her happy. So he would tend to sort of back off and let her do what she seems to want to do. Whereas what women really want, apparently, is
To follow.
Yeah, to follow. Who knew, right? Even the powerful women want to be led, and in the romantic relationship.
Yeah. So for a man to say like, okay, whatever you want, honey, if this is what's going to make you happy, there's subtleties in how he could turn that around so that he's not following her. She can actually say to him, I'm thinking of going to France or Greece for next summer vacation. That would make me so happy. What do you think?
Right. So she's just invited me into a conversation about vacation without making any decisions. She was giving me guidance from a feminine energy standpoint. And now
and by saying, what do you think?
Right.
So I'm giving him some direction to do research.
And she's
France
telling
or
me how to
Greece?
make her happy, and I want to make her happy, right? So France or Greece, okay, well now I know either one of those would make her happy, and I can go off and start researching and making plans to travel to one or the other.
Masculine energy would be, let's go to France or Greece, honey.
Yeah, okay, so you've already made the decision.
Yeah.
Maybe even a better example of masculine energy is, honey, we're going to Greece. I've already made the reservations.
Yeah. So like if I gave you the indication that this is what's going to make me happy, France or Greece, and then you did the research, and then if you said, honey, we're going to Greece, I'd be like, okay, when? Tell me, how many days are we going for?
Right.
So this is where the feminine is like,
Excited,
I want to follow.
Yes.
I gave you the recipe to make me happy, and then you did the research, and then now you're taking the masculine to say, come along.
But if a woman did that, if the woman came to the man and said, honey, we're going to Greece, it's a different reaction, right? Because the guy hasn't been a participant in that decision, let alone lead it. And now he's been put in a position of feeling emasculated.
Part of our coaching, our couples, and also the singles, especially the divorced single women, is to help them to realize that the conversations they have with potential dates or their husbands could be emasculating, that making them feel like, oh, I don't really want to be with her. So for example, a single divorced woman client I had been coaching, was in a text exchange with somebody she had been dating for a couple of months. And she really wanted to see him in like 4 or 5 days. And so she knew that he was going to be in her neighborhood visiting a friend because it's a bit of a long distance relationship. So she texted him to say, why don't you stop by for dinner on next Saturday when you're visiting
Right. So she's making the plan.
So she's making the plan. Why don't you? And then I said, okay, what energy is that coming from? Why don't you? Who's running the show here? Did you even give him an option to say no? So you said, why don't you? She's like, whoops. Ooh, that is from my masculine energy. I'm so used to doing that in my previous job of just ordering people around that here I am ordering him around, and I also ordered my former husband around and totally emasculated him. I said, okay, and how many other men did you do that to? She's like, oh, I don't know. My mother told me I always have to be in that energy. So we had to work on her childhood wounds that made her be in controlling mode. So this man did not answer her for 4 or 5 hours, and she was on a coaching call with me, and I said, so she's like, okay, what am I supposed to say? I just like goofed up. So she said, what if I say, would you like to come to dinner after you visit Jane? And then she texted him that instead. So she said, oops, I meant to say, would you like to come to dinner? And sure enough, within half hour to an hour, he responded back and said, I would love to come to dinner. So she gave him the option, yes or no. So she wasn't making the decision. She gave the decision back to the guy.
Right. And what a difference that makes for the guy.
A crucial step in saving your marriage is restoring that feminine masculine polarity, especially for the woman to drop her directiveness and to say what she needs and wants, and also closing out the sentences with a collaborative question like, what do you think?
Right. So one of the things that we find ourselves doing with these couples where there is a powerful woman is coaching them through actual exercises when she does come home to help her transition into her feminine energy, because it takes a while to kind of relax. And we've put together a long list actually of exercises, many of which involve touch. So by bringing her back into her body, there's a natural orientation around her feminine energy, because that's about feeling, that's about response, that's about being in the moment. As opposed to being in her head and thinking about what went wrong at work that day and wanting to talk through that. So, obviously that both of these things might be necessary after she gets home, but if you really want to consciously transition into feminine energy, there are techniques that will help you do that.
And so we just covered the surface about masculine and feminine polarity and how to save marriages through giving the power, quote unquote, back to the man. In essence, both people have power, but it's in the way that you request things and have discussions that is going to restore the polarity. So if a woman can ask more questions as opposed to tell him what to do, that's going to help her get into that feminine energy and allow him to make the decision.
And that makes all the difference. Okay, so that's step 6. Okay, so we've laid out the 6 steps for how to save your marriage and avoid divorce. And if you're serious about making changes in your marriage, now you're probably asking yourself how you get started.
So most couples find it really difficult to navigate this process by themselves.
So we're going to make this really simple for you.
If you're ready to talk to us to see if working with us is the right fit, please click on the coaching request form that is in the description box. And if it looks good, we will set up a free consultation on Zoom so that we can get to know you and to see if it's indeed the right fit to work together.
And if you're not ready for this risk-free call and you feel you need first to learn more about us or how our coaching process works, then don't take it from us. Listen to what our clients are saying about working with us and why it's so different from the traditional marriage counselors and therapists they've seen before coming to us. We'll link to the first of a series of videos in the description so you can hear it straight from them.
And if you're still not convinced, well, you know what? That's okay, because we have a bunch of other resources available for you to learn more. You can check out our website intimacyandgreatsex.com, which has a lot of video content about us and who we are, as well as learning about the internal family systems healing model that is at the center of our approach to help you save your marriage.
You can also download the Guide to Deeper Intimacy.
And that is the free gift that we give you from our website.
You can also watch the presentation, What is Internal Family Systems? Self-Leadership Healing Model, so you can understand what you need to do to save your marriage.
And you could also read my book, CLIMAX, Why Great Leaders Need Love Affairs, so that you can understand this internal family systems model of how to heal your relationships and the childhood wounds that contribute to your relationship challenges.
And of course, you can always email us directly at JimAndEmily@intimacyandgreatsex.com with any questions you may have, or to see if coaching is a fit with us to save your marriage and the right fit for you and your spouse.
So thank you for watching, and if you found this helpful, please comment and subscribe and click the bell notifications. Or if you know of anybody that needs this kind of information, please share this video with them.
Okay.
Until next time, toodaloo.
Bye-bye.
Bye.